Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, today I have Laura Spaulding on the line, and she's president and CEO over at Spaulding Decon. Laura, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
All right, Laura. So I'm excited to get into today's topic. So we're going to talk about Spaulding Decon and your offer. You're offering franchise opportunities, I understand. So I want to go into that. But before we do, because I know there's a lot of people looking for different businesses and things to start. But before we get into that, I do want to go a little bit further in your background. So tell me a little bit more about why you started Spaulding Decon.
Right out of college, I got hired into law enforcement in the Midwest, and I was doing that for about 7 years. And I just really kind of became disenchanted with the low pay, kind of the lack of opportunity. So I started looking elsewhere while I was getting my MBA in the evening. And this type of crime scene cleanup business just kind of smacked me one day, and the idea was born.
Wow, that's like I think most people listening, they're like, wait a minute, so you went from this to saying, all right, we're just going to clean up the mess. I mean, that's a big jump. You got to give me a little bit more there. Like, how'd that happen? Like, what was that? If you remember, what was that moment when you're like, oh, I could do this?
Yeah, so the moment was I remember it like it was yesterday. So I was going to grad school at night, and I couldn't figure out what kind of company that I wanted to start. I knew I was going to start something, and I was working a homicide one night, and the lady came up to me and said, hey, when are you guys going to come back and clean this up? And it was like that moment I thought, that's a weird question, but I didn't know how to answer it because I had never been asked before. So I started doing some research and looking into it, and I realized that's a pretty common question for people that go through, a nightmare like this. And they're under the impression that law enforcement cleans it up, which couldn't be further from the truth.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. So, like, so now you have this idea. You obviously launched the business. I want to go a little bit further down the line. So, like, tell me a little bit more about the growth. So how did you come to this franchising model and offering this opportunity? Because obviously it's working, and the franchise something that has to be working. So what made you go take that extra step to start offering the opportunity out to others?
It was, again, another kind of happenstance moment. 2007, 2008, during the financial crisis there, we were getting a lot of work from banks on foreclosure-type cleanups. And, the real estate market was just in disarray. And I was subcontracting all of the work that was outside of Florida. And I was just talking to my business lawyer one day, and I said, I'm having trouble with these subcontractors. They're just not turning in their equipment or their photos and their paperwork, and, there's lack of communication. And he said, why don't you just franchise? And I thought, oh, that's probably really, expensive, and I don't really know anything about it. So I kind of blew him off after that. And that was, he mentioned that probably, I think that was about 2010, maybe 2011. And then he brought it up again around 2014. And then I said, you know what, you've mentioned this a couple of times, I'm going to look into this. And I looked into it, and, I hired some consultants to kind of help me put it together that were, supposed experts in the franchise industry. And the franchise was born, and we started doing that in 2016.
Amazing. So I have to ask this question because anybody that's going into a franchise or considering an opportunity, I mean, they want to know, like, what's the money like? So how lucrative is the crime scene cleaning industry? Like, tell us a little bit more about the industry overall.
Yeah, so the industry overall is pretty fragmented. You'll see a lot of people kind of doing it on the side, a lot of mom and pop type work. There's about 3 maybe national players that do it as a business, but it's highly, highly lucrative. You know, I'll never forget my first job. I made more in, a day and a half than I made in 3 months. So,
wow.
I knew exactly that this is definitely what I wanted to do. And, your cost per hour and for what you're doing is extremely high. You're doing a service that other people don't want to do or can't do. So, you can charge a premium for that.
No, absolutely. And so tell us a little bit more about the profile of the people that do enter your franchise model. Like, are these owner-operators? Are they hands-off? Is this a passive thing? I mean, give us a feel for the complexion of what your franchisees look like.
Well, they're very different. There's not kind of one suit that fits all. We have, a former teacher. We have a deep sea diver. We have a IBM salesperson.
Wow.
We had a CEO from a food industry. Like, they come from all walks of life. And, I found that they're generally interested in this business because you have a great reward in helping these people get their lives back together after, some tragic event that happened.
It makes total sense. And so tell us a little bit more about the model, like how it works and how the application process looks like, be considered. Like, give us a little bit more there, because I know there's people listening to this that are looking for opportunity.
Yeah, it's about a 90-day process to get through it. The financial wherewithal is obviously one of them. We're considered a low-cost franchise, being under $150,000. You come to training, you buy a territory of 500,000 population. You get assigned a franchise coach, and you get a ton of mentoring and, professional coaching with whether it be, financial or estimating or industry type stuff. And we kind of grow together as a team. We've been able to tackle COVID, across the United States by just kind of banding together as one unit, and that's been real satisfying.
Wow, yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Especially, I mean, just being in the middle of the pandemic and all the things, I feel like for you to have this model, for you to be able to help people with this, is just it's a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot going on. Has it changed the industry a lot for you just in general? Just is there new regulation or other things like that you have to consider in doing this, or you were already at the top of the top when it came to this because of I'm looking at the pictures and you're in full suits, you're in full. Obviously, it's hard to describe this on audio, and you do a better job. So explain a little bit more about the level that this is operating at.
Well, we were really well positioned to when COVID hit, because we have been doing disinfection services for many years, 10, 15 years, whether it be for MRSA or hepatitis or, any other type of communicable disease. So when COVID hit, we were already very well positioned. We already had the equipment, the chemicals, the trained personnel, and the personal protective stuff. So we jumped in right away at the onset of it, and we've been pretty steady doing it all year. At each location, it's been great for business. Obviously, not so great for community.
Yeah, completely get it. So, Laura, if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more and they want to connect to learn more about Spaulding Decon in general, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
We have a really popular YouTube series. It's on youtube.com/crime scene cleaning. I think we're on our 6th or 7th season there. So if it's something that you're interested in from a true crime aspect, we have, everything is real life there. There's no editing. There's no censorship. There's nothing like that. So you come along and visit us on our job. We also have Instagram and TikTok at Crime Scene Cleaning on both.
Fantastic. Well, Laura, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and all the great work that you're doing over at Spaulding Decon. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, don't forget to hit the subscribe button there. And Laura, thanks again for coming on the show. It's been awesome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.